It is October 10th, 2013. I am here doing an interview with Mr. Frank Frost about RCMP corruption, social service corruption, Ministry of Family corruption. Go. Here's today's newspaper. Actually, that's yesterday's newspaper. And on the newspaper is front page RCMP murder of matters.
This story is done by Carrie Roop herself. Every word you see on this truck, she wrote. These are her handwritten notes, of which you'll see on my link of Mr. Rob. Well, actually, the reporter is doing this story right now. And on here you'll see the circle of death. Everything you want to see is on here. The Ministry of Children and Families covers up the murder of my firstborn child for 25 years with the help of the RCMP, the Saanich Police Department, and the courts. And no truer words were ever spoken. That's exactly what's been going on. She has been tortured by these people for 25 years of her life. I've known Carrie for a long time, and I agreed to help her 3 years ago to bring this to the forefront. And in the last 3 years, I have been undying in my attempt to bring this to justice. But there is no justice. I found out over the last 3 years that these people are relentless in covering up everything I'm about to talk about. I'm going to start from one corner of the truck, and then I will address everything that she has written, remember, on this truck. Everyone has to be strong and stand up and be counted to stop the injustice in our society. That's you people, all of you. I don't want to see our society and our government come to its knees. I want you to get to your feet. Every one of you has a vested interest in this, our children. Your children are my children. And no child needs to be molested or murdered. Anyone who are abused and was abused, don't ever go to these people for help, because they will torture you like they do me. Again, truer words have never been spoken. Every victim of abuse in this system by the RCMP, the Ministry of Children and Families, and numerous government agencies that help these people carry this out and cover up and make mockery of our laws in our courts. The people that have been abused are afraid to come forward, terrified. Point in fact, in New Brunswick, in St. John, New Brunswick, Estabrook case, they said that this policeman who molested 263 children over a span of 30 years acted alone. And in the next breath, they had RCMP officers going and picking these children up, bringing them to a location for him to molest, while social workers turned a blind eye. Well, I'm here to tell you that they do not turn a blind eye. They are the eye. They are the ones that put these children at risk. All of them. I lived in tyranny for years because of these people. They bestow as much despair in people's lives as they possibly can. And everyone out there looking at me and listening to me speak knows this. They know exactly what these people do. Exactly what they do, especially the victims, and which there are tens of thousands, trust me, tens of thousands. And the children mostly are the ones that suffer. Human Rights Commission, Victim Services, Wagstaff, the lawyer for the Ministry of Children and Families. What a scumbag he is. Trust me, that person is the scum of this earth. He goes into courtrooms every day in Prince George with boxes of files, and they're just numbers of children ripped from the arms of loving parents, as they did to me. Human Rights Commission? That's a joke. You can't even submit a document to prove what you say. They have their bases covered. Trust me. Everyone that's out there right now listening to me that's been involved and is involved in something similar to this knows exactly what I'm talking about. Serious Crimes Unit, Prince George. What a joke. What a joke. These guys are the serious criminals. I tell you right now, they are the serious criminals. They cover up more murders and wrongdoing by the RCMP than I care to think about. Mary Ellen Turpel Lafond, the watchdog of legislation. I contacted her, told her what they did when they kidnapped my children. Carrie contacted them and told them what they did when they kidnapped our children. And the next day, a little Jewish white girl now, that's Carrie, was all of a sudden Aboriginal. And their office couldn't help her. I also looked in their pages of people to contact in their organization, and it turns out that they do represent Aboriginals. They said they couldn't help her at all. They even told me the same thing. Can't help you. Nothing we can do. Not a thing. They were told about the murder. They were told about the molestation that Carrie went through as a child. Nothing they said they could do. Nothing. That's the watchdog, a good watchdog, you bet. She stands back and watches. That's it. As for doing anything, nothing. She's supposed to be the watchdog of the legislation, of which I might add that they have special powers, the Ministry of Children and Families. Special powers that they can go into a courtroom, whatever they write, a judge has to, because he's legislated to believe every lying word that they write. These are the agencies that I contacted and sent documents to on numerous occasions. All of these media outlets that you are supposed to be able to contact and get your story out there so that everybody knows. That is not happening. They put out exactly what this guy, Stephen Harper, and the RCMP, and whoever else in the government agencies, that's the only stories they do. As a matter of fact, the Valley Sentinel told me that they wouldn't do this story because the RCMP, if they said no comment, there's no story. And this is all of these. The Police Commission. What a joke. I mean, absolute joke. Cops investigating cops. You will see on my link documents of authenticity, I might add, that I complained to the Police Commission on numerous occasions of what was going on. They did nothing. Nothing. And now they've even lost communication with me altogether. They don't need to talk to me anymore because they've started on a campaign some time ago, actually, to discredit me. And you know, and of course they do it to everybody. This guy's crazy. He's crazy. Oh yeah, we wouldn't do that. We are too wonderful and too powerful. The media only wants you to know what the government wants you to know. That was Carrie. And it's me too. These people here, the ombudsman, all of these people right here, this is a counselor over at the Robinson Valley Center here in McBride where I live, is Jeff. I went to Jeff and Penny one morning to inform them of the murder. They had already known about the molestation Carrie went through as a child. And we'll get to that on the other side of the truck, by the way. They phoned Barry Kennedy, RCMP officer here in McBride. Again, scum. Trust me. He came to me and he said that he talked to Doug Newman, whose name is over here as well, from the Sandwich Police Department. And he said Newman had investigated the murder and found that it was unwarranted. Well, I'll tell you something about that. When I spoke to Doug Newman, I never mentioned no murder at all. I mentioned the molestation of 2 lawyers that work for the provincial government, and in particular the Ministry of Children and Families. But I never once mentioned that murder at any time. And he come back to me with this barefaced lie. And when I told him, that's funny, Barry, because I never spoke to him about the murder, Barry backed out of my driveway and left. What could he say? He's a liar. He's lied in court. He lies to everybody. That's what these people do best. The people that knew and did nothing. The list of these people has grown tenfold, as you'll see on my link. And I refer to them all as accessories to murder and pedophilia, because that's what they are. All of them. 85 children committed suicide in the care of the Ministry of Children and Families and foster homes, which these people control. 85. Now, I'll tell you something. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty sad statement for somebody that's supposed to be caring for these children and making sure that they're okay. Now, these are only the children that couldn't take their love and care any longer, and the wonderful care that they give these children. 85 of them killed themselves. All children of this world are mine. They're yours. We have a social and moral responsibility to see to it that this never happens. But we don't. Because we sit back and we let our lives go on. We're working so hard to pay the bills and the whole 9 yards. We just don't care. I care. And I have put my life on hold for the last 3 years to make sure this number doesn't exist. It not exist, and no child shall be molested by any fucking lawyer. Shirley Bond was involved in torturing Carrie at a prison in Prince George. She okayed it. When I found out what had happened to Carrie at the prison in Prince George, and she makes mention of it also, and I'm going to put on the link an interview that Barry did with her where she described me as this monster. And she mentions they scared the shit out of her in the prison. She lied that whole thing. I am not that monster. I have been helping her every step of the way. These people seen me as a credible threat, and they're going all out to discredit me. And if you want to believe the shit they tell you, that's on you. That's on you. Because they're doing that to everyone that speaks out against them. Everyone. They're crazy. Well, maybe we are. Maybe the tens of thousands of people around this country and others that speak out against these governments from murdering our children and sexually molesting our children, maybe we're all crazy. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to stop until they get their dirty fucking dicks out of our children. That's over. I will end that. I don't care how long it takes me. It's been 3 years now, and I'm in this for the long haul. And you best pay attention. And I know you're looking at me. And all of you that know me, you know I am relentless in that. Because I won't allow none of my children to go through that. and everybody around the world, and I don't care what walk of life and religion you're in, you agree with me. I know this because you're good people. You're not evil psychopaths like the ones we got running our country right there. And the rest of these people, out of all these people, Elizabeth May was the only one that wrote back a letter when I sent her a package of the file from the Ministry of Children and Families. Kerry had over a 3,000-page file 3 years ago, and through the Freedom of Information Act, of which these criminals hide behind, I got 248 pages. 60 criminal acts were perpetrated against her by the Ministry of Children and Families and the RCMP. 60. That's from 248 pages of 3,000 pages. Do the math. Do the math. These are all her children. All these children. Brianna, 17. David, 16. Rosemary, 14. Jacob, 10. Elise, and Johanna. And there's also Jamie, who the ministry forged the documents to sell him to some people in Victoria. And she hasn't seen him since. Not since. Tony and Charisse May, my children, mine. I am the only daddy they know. I love my children, all of them. Just because they're not my blood doesn't make my love any less. Trust me. My children, I love my children. Beyond my life, I would put my life on the line for my children, all of my children. That includes yours. Your children, as I said earlier, are my children. And it's my responsibility to see to it that my children are safe. All my children. That's yours, people. Yours as well. Living with my ex-husband, these children, who was a heroin addict, and he is, still is, and always, and an abusive parent, condoned by the MCFD, Tony and Charisse are held hostage by the Robson Valley Home Support and the Ministry of Children and Families. True. That's where they are today. And I've been fighting since October of last year to get my children back. I thought Kerry was along with me, but it seems they paid her $50,000 to testify against me.
Who is they? Who paid them?
The RCMP and the Ministry of Children and Families. She took the money. Shame on you, Kerry.
Where did the money end up?
Well, that's a funny, even better story. They gave her 50 grand, she spent a bunch of it, and as soon as she testified against me, they went and took the rest out of her account and gave it to her ex-husband. They said it was for child support. But she boasts to my friend Walter that she is a millionaire, offered to buy him a cell phone. Walter's interview will be on here as well.
One quick question,
sure.
Again. Are you familiar to know what account that Kerry had that this $50,000?
It's either in a Bank of Commerce account or the Bank of Nova Scotia right here in McBride, because she had two bank accounts. Oh, and I'm sure that they went into the banks and got rid of those records. They'd be stupid if they didn't, and I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. Jamie was sold by the Ministry of Children and Families. All the documents were forged. I showed her that in the file. She pointed out to me, look at the signature. I showed Pete Bernstead, a cop here in McBride, and I used that term cop very loosely with him. He's a disgusting excuse for a human being.
Which documents?
The forged documents.
From which organization?
From the Ministry of Children and Families.
And how were they received?
I got them in the file. There was a part of the file that I received, the 248 pages of the file from the Ministry of Children and Families.
What was the name of the individual that gave you that file?
Actually, I don't have the... Well, it came through the Freedom of Information Act. It was the only way we could get the file.
At which ministry office? Here in McBride?
In Chetwynd. Actually, it's a funny story with that, because the first file came, the Ministry of Children and Families went and took it out of our mailbox, and it disappeared. So we got a second one. And you know what was funny about that, most unusual, is that I said to Carrie, you know what? When we get the second one, it's human error that's going to screw them over. And I was absolutely right, because there was documents in the second file that wasn't in the first file, because we got a whole bunch of blank pages and blacked out pages, as, you know, per regular with the Freedom of Information Act. Especially, I mean, when you're covering up criminal acts by these people. And so it wasn't unusual to me at all. I knew what to expect. And sure enough, there were documents in there that weren't in the first file. And that file that I compiled, as a matter of fact, is in, I'll point you out his name right now, Judge Daly in the Supreme Court. He's out of Dawson Creek. He was in Fort St. John when Carrie went there with her ex-husband. She had given up her parental rights to all of these children right here to him, because the police in McBride and Chetwynd would not enforce a forcible order. And there was nothing she could do. It was against my advice to give up the parental rights of her children, but she did it anyway. And, you know, shame on her for doing that too as well, because she just did the same with Tony and Charisse. Gave her parental rights up to the Ministry of Children and Families. I'm going back to court, and I was in court just a couple of weeks ago when they got 3 more month extension. And these judges, these judges, let me see what we got. Mr. Weatherly, Mr. Weatherly, I told you in court this was all your fault. And you didn't dispute that, because you're in the ass pocket of this piece of shit right here, Wagstaff, and the cops, and every social worker that she lists right here. These are the kidnappers of my children. She wrote that, and they're the kidnappers of my children. Jesse Smith, Einar Martman, Raylene Bryce, Renee Spence, Nancy Taylor, Tamara Parker, Bob Thompson, Emily, Jen Kwan, Beth Fredericks, you scum, Melanie Johnson, Penny Rivard, Elizabeth Dupree, Jeff, the counselor, Ashley, and Bridget. I don't know any of their last names. I didn't write this. She did. But trust me when I tell you, they kidnapped our children. They all lied in court. I proved it in Weatherly's court, and he ignored that proof. He didn't charge any of them with perjury. Of course not. He gave them my little children, my beautiful children that I love. And there was never a moment did they speak about me abusing my children or her. They said she just gave them to him because she wanted to go drinking. Well, there was one honest cop in the whole matter. Brady Kosiak, I believe his last name, how you pronounce it. Thank you, Brady, because you were the only one that told the truth. But it didn't matter, did it? I had an order from Judge Brecknell, who I might add is a very honorable man. Someone you can be proud to sit in the courtroom in Prince George, because he's honorable and he actually goes by the Charter of Rights. And he's a very honorable man who gave several orders, of which none were ever carried out. None. One in particular, when I was incarcerated by these people, for 4 months I was in jail. 3 months I couldn't use the phone. Judge Brecknell ordered that the Corrections BC take me from that unit to a phone. And he ordered that at minimum 5 phone calls. I received none. None. Judge Gray ignored it. Judge Brecknell said to Mr. McDonald, and I use the term Mr. very loosely. He's scum.
Who is Mr. McDonald?
Jeffrey McDonald, the Crown Prosecutor in Prince George, told him that he was going to have a problem at trial because I wasn't able to put on my defense. I was defending myself. And at no time was I given an opportunity to put out my subpoenas, of which I had over 20. Because I was proving this conspiracy of all of these people in the murder and the cover-up and the pedophilia by these two sick fucks right here. This man, Ken Aziz, James Turner, lawyers for the MCFD. I don't know where this scumbag is, but this guy is still in Victoria on Vancouver Island. One of these two is the father of this murdered child. They were in the home, and she says it all right here. Sexually molested me, Carrie Rook, from the age of 8 years old. Can you imagine? To 12 years old. One is the father of my murdered child. Both were at my home when my father, Charles Alvin McKee, murdered my child. Charles Alvin McKee is doing 25 to life in prison, but not for this murder. No. He was sexually molesting his children and torturing his children, of which Carrie was one of. So, but that's okay. That's okay. When he gets out, I'm sure Mr. Turner will take care of him and the police and everybody else that was involved in all this. We don't have to worry about terrorists from foreign countries. We have lots of them right here. You're right, Carrie. We don't have to worry about terrorists at all. We got them all right here. And you people out there can trust me when I tell you they are terrorists. Their foreign policies in other countries, I question. I never questioned them before because I was led to believe that they were over in these foreign countries helping these people. Well, I now believe that that is not true. They went over there to impose their will and stick their fucking dirty dicks into their children. And that's not going to happen either. My Muslim brothers and everyone, every religion around this world, trust me when I tell you that I will protect your children as well. They are mine. And you're going to stop murdering our children all around the world. I applaud you, Mr. Putin, when you stop these fags from setting up their little parade in your country, and you said it best when you said that they will infect my children. You're absolutely right. But it's not just the gay community. I couldn't care less if another man wanted to stick his dick into another hairy-ass man, but you keep your dirty dicks out of my children. All of them. I won't tolerate it, and neither will anybody else. Anybody that has any moral fiber whatsoever will not let you do that. Under no circumstances. Everybody's supposed to obey the law except these people. I would trust the Hell's Angels before I would trust these people. Me too. Me too. I once thought, oh, geez, these guys are real bad guys. The biggest criminal organization in this country, and you can trust me on this, is the RCMP. Not the Hells Angels, not the UN gang, not the crew, not the posse. None of those people are the big organized crime units. Don't even believe none of that. As a matter of fact, the Hells Angels, you wear your patch with pride, sir, because I would trust you more than I would trust any of these people. You put that patch on your back and be proud that you have the guts to stand up to these people. You're not doing anything they're not doing. Not at all. Not at all. I watched a video this morning of a gentleman in Quesnel, Lonnie, and they were trying to murder him because he witnessed them murdering people.
That would be the Lonnie Landard story.
Right.
The one that's been covered up for years.
Absolutely. That's what they do best, is cover up all this. But no more, because the eyes of the world are now going to be on you. The eyes of the world are going to know every dirty thing you've ever done here, and they're going to know every dirty thing you've done in their countries, and defiled their children, and raped their women, and murdered people in the streets. And I got a little something for the Canadian military. Don't do their bidding. You are murdering my children. You are murdering your children. And when you do this, that's on you. That's on you. And don't ever think for a moment that anybody is going to believe that you did this for your country. You did that for psychopaths. Believe that. We, as a society, should be embarrassed by the actions of all these people and anyone who supports them. I can't add any more to that. I can't add any more to that. I mean, that's exactly. We should be embarrassed. I am embarrassed. I'm 58 years old, and I believed up until 2 years ago that, these people work for me. Bullshit! Bullshit! Because if they worked for me, they wouldn't be doing this. They are one by themselves. They are, all of them, are working against our society when they allow these people, all of these people, to know about the murder and molestation of a child, just one, and cover up just one. They're not covering up one, they're covering up thousands in this country. Thousands. Believe me, thousands. And we will find those thousands, because now I'm going to make an appeal to all of you people that have been abused by these people to contact me. I will believe you. I will help you in any way I can. And I will make sure that the world knows what they did to you. You are my child too. And I wasn't there when they did this to you, but I'm there now. And because I know now what they did to you and who did this to you. The MCFD purpose is to put as much despair in people's lives as possible. That's true. That's what they do. They put nothing but despair in the lives of children and families every day. Every day. And they can do this because they're legislated to lie as much as they want in court and take innocent children from their parents and destroy the family unit. That's exactly what they did here. And to so many others. I mean, call me, email me, whatever you can. I would prefer to talk to you in person. Call me on my phone and tell me the story, because I know. And listen to this, people. All of you listen to this. They use this thing of people with addictions. They did the same thing to Carrie. First, she was a drunk. She didn't drink. She was in my home for 3 years. We had 6 bottles of wine in 3 years. Then they said she was on drugs. Did all the hair follicle tests, the whole 9 yards. And they put people through this every day. Every day. Some people get weak, and they go and they do whatever drug or what have you to numb themselves from the pain they feel. That's called despair. Despair. And if they got an addiction, it's because these fuckers gave it to them. They put so much despair in their lives that they didn't know what else to do except numb themselves. I don't drink, and I don't do drugs. I don't take a fucking aspirin. I don't need to be numb. What I need to be is, I want all of these people to understand one thing right now. I want what I pay you to do. Everyone in our society wants what we pay you to do. For me, for everybody, but in particular, my children. That these dirty motherfuckers put their dirty dicks in. And you're gonna stop. I will make sure.
I'm gonna take a break.